Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I think we're going to wait just a few more seconds and let any last people join on because it's just now 1 o'clock, and then we will get started. Okay, good afternoon. My name is Tracy Stewart. I'm the Manager of Student Services at the Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, the ASPPH Presents webinar, Student Services Spotlight on Digital Marketing, as we hear about 2 successful implementations of retargeted ads. Today's webinar will be 1 hour in length. We'll begin with an introduction, followed by 2 presentations lasting approximately 15 minutes each, and ending with a Q&A period. The webinar is part of the 2016 ASPPH Presents monthly series, which has been designed as a service to accredited ASPPH member schools and programs of public health. The webinar is being recorded and it will be available on the ASPPH website and archived webinar section soon. A few housekeeping items of note. While you're in listen-only mode, your lines have been muted. We encourage you to ask questions through the presentation by using the question box. We'll address your questions at the end of the presentation. Next, there is the question box. Okay, so our speakers today include Owen Landing. Having pioneered the use of retargeting in higher education and undergraduate recruiting back in 2009, Echo Interactive LLC has since developed a unique online recruiting tool in partnership with various higher ed organizations and associations. Today, Echo Interactive LLC is providing a meaningful membership to benefit to hundreds of colleges and universities via its partnership with the Association of American Colleges of Pharmacy, Association of Schools and Programs of Public Health, American Physical Therapy Association, American Association of Colleges and Nurses, Physical Assistant Education Association, Women's College Coalition, and the Association of American International Colleges and Universities. Steve Bowling is changing the world one brochure, one webpage, and one article at a time. At the Tulane University School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine, students are the ones who are going to make our world healthier, safer, and more pleasant place to exist. Her job as Director of Communications is to inform and attract future, current, and graduated students through Tulane's website, publications, social media, and other marketing so that they can make the difference in the world. It's her great pleasure to be able to do all this from the bastion of food and music, New Orleans, which is a surprisingly great place to raise a family and have dogs. Christopher Aldrich. Chris Aldrich is a marketing manager with Northeastern University in Boston, where he manages a portfolio of graduate-level degree programs and other university branding efforts. Prior to joining Northeastern in 2013, Chris held various enrollment management roles in admissions and marketing at universities across New England. Thanks again for being here today. I'll now turn it over to Owen.
I appreciate that. And for those of you not familiar with what I refer to as retargeting, but also commonly referred to as retargeting or remarketing, you experience it every day. Whenever you go online, visit a site, and you find an ad on that site, the odds are pretty good that ad is just not there by coincidence. It's likely directed to you via some site you likely visited in the past, trying to maintain awareness with you. And that's what this program is really all about. Chris are going to walk you through how they utilize it, but and I'll forward the slide, what we have done is in partnership with ASPPH, we have code on their site on the pages which a prospective student is most likely to visit, as well as the SOFA site. And so we've aggregated an audience exclusively of student prospects interested in pursuing a degree of some sort within the School of Public Health. and we're able to direct ads to them. So if they were to visit one of those pages, either on the ASPPH or SOFA site, utilizing that code, they're in our audience, and later when they go online, visit a site which allows ads, they're very likely to see one of our participating schools, an ad for one of the participating schools. And if they were to click on it, it then will take them to the landing page of your choice, which would reside on your server. And that's really what Chris and Dee are going to spend some time sharing with you, the design of both the ads as well as the landing page. So Dee, if you'd like to pick it up from here.
I sure will. Thanks, Alan. Okay, so first, a little history. Tulane has been providing public health education for over 100 years. And for much of that history, we were, one of a few choices in this area. And we had a diverse global portfolio, so we could really draw on students by our reputation. We didn't have a lot of need for a lot of specific marketing. We're also strategically located in New Orleans, which is a gateway to Latin America, so admissions largely took care of itself. And, over the past couple of decades, as we all know, the need for public health practitioners has ballooned, and higher ed has been responding to that need. So first, we started to see a growth in the number of schools that belong to the ASPH, and then programs were added to the association when it became ASPPH. That, in effect, doubled the number of choices, or even more than doubled the number of choices that students had in pursuing a public health degree. Hand in hand with that, the choices in SOFIS increased exponentially. So when a student goes there, there's a lot more noise. There's a lot more choices. So it became a little bit harder to distinguish ourselves, even with a long history and reputation in public health. So traditionally, we had a lot of students that would come to the School of Public Health who had already spent time working in the field. So they would often hear about Tulane from our alumni or faculty who were in the field, either locally or abroad. And through those conversations, they would approach us and learn more about us and end up being a student. And another way that we would find students would be at college fairs or at the APHA conference or other similar events. And our admissions team was busy throughout the year attending events such as that. Now, of course, the majority of students that we see in graduate school are coming straight out of undergraduate, so they don't always have that extensive experience in the field. They aren't necessarily going to stumble across our alumni or our faculty. And while graduate fairs are still ongoing, the majority of students are online. I mean, obviously students are going on the internet every single day, so it only makes sense to capture that and to use that as a resource for marketing to students, because we want to be where they're at. We were already doing some advertising online when we first heard about ECHO Interactive partnering with ASPPH, and it hit on a lot of buttons for us because we knew that these would be prospective students who had a definite interest in public health. It was unlikely that they would go to ASPPH or the SOFIS site if they weren't interested in pursuing a public health degree. By contrast, we had been doing some Facebook advertising, which, despite the fact that we were using the appropriate keywords, we weren't getting a lot of really good qualified leads. We were getting visits to our website, but they weren't translating into really anything. So echo marketing made a lot more sense in that this was a qualified audience of students definitely interested in public health. So we started with the ECHO retargeting campaign right at the end of 2015. And we developed 5 different ad sizes with the same general creative. It was a simple direct message, and it pictured one of our students in the field. And based on our discussions with Owen, we knew we wanted to add a second ad set to that. So in March, we developed a different concept that really focused on the breadth and depth of the degrees we offer. And we're currently running both ad sets at the same time. Both ads are linked to custom URLs. Going into this, we knew that we wanted to determine how effective our efforts were. So we didn't want to just have them go to the homepage of our website. We wanted them to go to a unique location so we would be able to really track where our leads were coming from. And these are landing pages that we don't link up anywhere else on our site, so we're able to determine the effectiveness of the ads. At the same time, we're measuring traffic using, of course, Google Analytics and also something called Crazy Egg heat mapping. And using these tools, we can monitor where the visitors are clicking, what is interesting them on the page. For instance, we found that a lot of people were clicking on the large graphic at the top, which is a picture of the New Orleans riverfront, which wasn't initially clickable, but we added a link to some New Orleans information to that so that we were providing them with what we thought they were looking for. And so the landing page gives us clues into specifically what topics our visitors are interested in. The most important way that we're using ECHO marketing is by generating new contacts. On the page that they land on, visitors have an opportunity to get a fact sheet in return for providing contact information. And this generates new leads that we can then use to reach out to them with invitations to webinars, open house, etc. Whatever we have going on, we can reach out to that group. And these are essentially new contacts for us. So for our first ad set, it's been running for 177 days, and we've had a little over 2,000 visits to the page, and we've had 1,797 clicks over the whole page. And from that, we've gotten 175 new contacts that we didn't have before. So that averages out to about 11 visits to that page per day and just under 1 new qualified contact per day. And very, very successful in our opinion, especially for the amount of budget that we've put towards it. Whoops, I think I missed one. Sorry about that. Our second ad set has been running for 121 days with 714 visits and 676 clicks and 46 new contacts. And we figure that's about 6 visits per day. And it's been a little bit less effective in generating new leads, but we're not quite sure why yet. We believe it could be that using an image like we had with the other better personalizes us, and it could also be the timing since we started in March and a lot of students had already applied at that point. Overall, we've had over 1 million ads fed with more than a couple of thousand visits to the site. And these are actually numbers from a few weeks ago. At this point, we haven't gone through a full cycle with the ads lined up against our admissions, so I can't really determine what the cost per lead or cost per student is. We'll get more data on that as we go forward. Some of the challenges that we've had with a wide variety of students that we have, because we have international health, global health degrees, nutrition, health management. It's a wide variety of students. So coming up with an ad set that's going to appeal to all of those different audiences has been a little bit challenging. So we want to diversify our ad set a bit going forward. As I mentioned, we're trying to figure out why one ad has done a little bit better than the other. And we've also had a little bit of an unbalanced demographic response with leads coming in from some countries over not as balanced with the rest of them. So we're trying to tweak some of our settings with Owen so that we get a little bit more balanced response so that we're not weighting things in one direction or the other. The benefits, so far we're very pleased with this type of marketing. The opportunity is clearly our market, since we know that the visitors to ASPPH and SOPHIS definitely have an interest in public health. While we don't know how our efforts will directly impact applications just yet, we have about 200 leads that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise, plus potentially many more who aren't necessarily clicking through to get that back sheet. So we're making more and more people aware of the programs we have to offer. And especially the cost is definitely effective compared to traditional media or even the expenses associated with staff travel to events. We still do that type of thing, but we can be much more strategic and targeted and combine it with this type of effort. So yes, we've definitely found this to be well worth our time and our money. So I want to thank ASPPH. We appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this webinar. And next up, Chris Aldrich with Northeastern University.
Thanks, Dee. I'm going to jump in there just for 1 second. As you saw, that was the question bar. If you have questions for Dee, go ahead and enter them now, and we'll address them at the end.
All right, thank you, Tracy. As mentioned, everyone, my name is Chris Aldridge, and I'm a marketing manager up here at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts. I just want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm very excited to talk to you specifically about retargeting as a digital marketing tool. It's proven to be a very effective, very efficient marketing tactic for us, and I'm excited to share some of our results with you. So for starters, just a little bit about Northeastern and our MPH and urban health. If you're not familiar with Northeastern, we are a private top 50 research university, as I mentioned, located up here in Boston, Massachusetts. Our Master of Public Health and Urban Health is still a relatively new program in terms of the public health landscape, as it was just founded in 2008, and is a member of our Bouvet College of Health Sciences, which is one of the largest colleges of health sciences here in Boston, which, as you can imagine, is a very competitive higher ed market and a very competitive healthcare market. The urban health focus, as you can probably tell, is a unique focus for us. We do have the focus on urban health, and we are focused on diversifying the public health workforce. Our pedagogy is rooted in social justice and urban health equity. We also have recently introduced the 100% online course format, in addition to the traditional on-campus format, now also a hybrid format which combines the two, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And we do actually employ now 37 faculty members, a combination of full-time and adjunct, and those are interdisciplinary faculty members ranging from fields such as medicine and law to business and engineering. So why do we utilize retargeting as a marketing tactic? For starters, retargeting specifically, with Owen and Echo Interactive allows us to engage with an audience, prospective students who have already indicated interest, some type of interest or some level of interest in a graduate or a public health program because they've already visited either the SOPHIS or the ASPPH site. So we know that we have the opportunity to present our program to an engaged and interested audience, which from a marketing standpoint is obviously a home run for us. And it's obviously a very unique situation where our traditional retargeting campaigns may place a pixel on our public health program website or the College of Health Sciences website, and then serve an ad to a student once they visit a boston.com or another external site. This is unique because it's actually placing that pixel on the ASPPH site and placing it on the SOPHIS site and then serving our ad. So it's allowing us to target a different audience, present our program to an audience that may not have heard of Northeastern or our public health program yet. And the reason we really started to explore remarketing as a tactic for our MPH program really was, the impetus was we launched our 100% online modality. So in 2008, when our program launched, it was just a traditional on-campus model. And then now, a year and a half ago, we launched the 100% online offering, which basically meant we needed to go to a new national audience. Previously, our program was marketed locally here in region, in New England, in Boston, because students obviously had to travel to campus to take the courses. But once we launched that 100% online modality, it meant that we needed to find ways to reach that national audience and enroll online students. So we immediately identified retargeting or remarketing as a method that could be, that we had seen had been cost effective for other programs. And that is at the point where we partnered with Owen and with Echo Interactive to launch our first remarketing campaigns for MPH. This slide here takes a little bit of a look at what we call our marketing funnel, where this is basically how the student, prospective student would move through our funnel and hopefully eventually enroll. As Owen and Dee both had mentioned, they walked through a little bit of logistics of how the pixel is placed on the SOFIS and ASPPH website, and then once a student leaves that site and goes and visits another website, our ad would then be served to that student. So you'll see an example here of just one of the ads that we've run with Owen with Echo Interactive. But once the student does click on that, we also, similar to Dee and the folks at Tulane, are driving our prospective students to a custom program-specific landing page. I'll show a better example of that screenshot in a minute, but it's important for us, as our ultimate goal with these campaigns as we track success is to generate leads or contacts. So by having the custom landing page, we're able to not only present succinct, relevant program information, but also have a very prominent lead form to give prospective students the opportunity to request more information from us. Once they do fill out that form, hopefully, the next step was for a data pass to happen between where our landing pages are built through our marketing automation software, Marketo, and our CRM system, where we actually host the prospective student data, is in our CRM system, Salesforce. So that's an automated process for us. So as soon as the student fills out that form, that data is automatically moved through Marketo and into Salesforce. And that's when our lead nurturing follow-up can happen. And that happens in a number of different ways for us. First and foremost are the lead nurturing email tracks. So there's automated emails that are sent out immediately as soon as the student fills out that form, thanking them for their interest. And then they get subsequent emails. As Dee had mentioned, they have a similar strategy, but it could be an invitation to an open house or an info session. It could be faculty, and it could be a course spotlight. But there is a nurturing track built out for our program that students will be able to interact with and engage with as they continue their interest in the program. In addition to that, we do have a dedicated admissions team who is also conducting outreach. They are making phone calls, they are doing emails, and they also are collaborating directly with our academic team in order to help nurture those students through the lead process and into hopefully the application process, which, as you can see by the last point here, is our ultimate goal, is not only just to generate these leads, but nurture these students through the application process, help them submit their application, and then eventually, hopefully, enroll in our program. So I just wanted to share a few creative examples. We saw Dee in Tulane's ads. They obviously just have some really nice looking ads, and these are just a few examples of the pieces that we've run with Echo Interactive over the last couple of years. We also did test at one point some options that had a heavier graphic image. We had actually had a picture of one of our students as well. And surprisingly enough, we found over time that the text-only ads perform better for us, which was surprising because best practices typically tell us in any banner ad that imagery usually is a better click-through rate and better engagement rate, but for whatever reason we saw our engagement on text-only ads had been stronger. Some of the best practices we've also implemented is introducing attention-grabbing headlines, something that's really going to draw the person's eye to the ad, which obviously helps with our school colors being red, because red is obviously very attention-grabbing. And then also having some type of call to action, so having the student want to take action to either learn more, request information, etc. And we also do our best to try to flip out these ads every about 4 to 6 months. We have the luxury here at Northeastern, and our team has an internal creative team, so we have graphic designers on staff. So we build into their content calendar the opportunity to build new banner ads for us, as we know that we never really turn off retargeting. It's something that we always have on. It's always running. It's constantly generating leads for us throughout the year. So we build out a content calendar, a creative calendar, where we're planning on flipping in new creative throughout the course of the fiscal year. And this is just a better look at one of our landing pages and what that looks like. The first thing you'll probably notice here is a very prominent lead form, which is the first thing you see on the right-hand side of the page. We obviously want to keep that front and center because we want to entice prospective students to fill out that form and learn more. We also do, similar to Tulane, use an interactive PDF or a program sheet, as we call it here, which if the student fills out the form, that's the gated content that we use to give them on the thank you page. Additionally, you can't see it because it's below the fold here, but we do have a program video and we do have some program infographics that we built into our landing pages as well. We've just found through trial and error really and through best practices that the more engaging visual content that you have on your page, in addition to the fact sheets, things like videos and infographics, really do help boost your conversion rates. So once students get to the landing page, they're more likely to convert with the more visually engaging content you have. But that being said, it's also incredibly important just to keep the most succinct, high-level program overview information on there. So really, what is your positioning statement for your program? What are your key differentiators? And then the basics with things like application deadlines or upcoming enrollment intakes and things like that. So just a few of the best practices, but obviously it's been something that's been really successful for us using this method versus driving them to maybe just the general MPH program website or page on the UVA College of Health Sciences site. So this next slide takes a little bit of how we measure our success and how we optimize our campaigns. There's probably dozens of metrics that we could talk about today on things that we are looking at on a regular basis to determine success and efficiency of our retargeting campaigns. But really the big ones for us, first and foremost, are clicks and click-through rates. So of the impressions that you're serving, of the people that are seeing your ads, how many of them are clicking on them, how many unique views are you driving to your landing pages. Because obviously if people are seeing your ads and they're not clicking on it, that's telling you that something's wrong with the creative or with the copy in your ad. Lead volume is obviously incredibly important, as I mentioned. The whole purpose of these campaigns is to generate new contacts or leads so that we can get them into our nurturing stream and hopefully eventually enroll them. So we're constantly tracking via Marketo and via Salesforce, the number of students that are visiting our site, how many are actually filling out that form to request more information, how many students are getting into our nurturing funnel, and how are they progressing through that process. The cost per lead is another piece that ties into that we're constantly tracking. Of the investment that we're making, what is the average cost that we're investing per lead generated? And I can say, as we wrap this up, that this has been an incredibly low CPL driver for us, just based on our benchmarks that we set. So been a huge success. And that goes with applications as well. As I mentioned, ultimately, applications is our goal here. We're trying to get students enrolled. So we're constantly tracking of students who come in as a lead through these programs, how many eventually go on to submit that application and eventually enroll in the program. So finally, just some results on that we've seen over the past 2 years. We started working with Echo Interactive and with Owen in the spring of 2015. So this data actually spans 2 enrollment intakes for us for our MPH program. And over that time, we've driven 8,500, more than 8,500 unique landing page views. So it's unique views to our landing pages that we have built out for our MPH program. And additionally, we've generated, of those 8,500 views, more than 400 of those students have eventually filled out that lead form to request more information and become leads or contacts for us. Of those 400 plus that have filled out lead forms, actually 12 of them have actually gone on to eventually submit an application. And of those 12, we've seen 3 new students actually enroll from these efforts. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned, the be-all end-all for us is that this, from a return on investment standpoint, has been a home run. It's not to use a baseball analogy, but it's been an absolute home run for us as far as the CPLs and the cost per applications and cost per enrollments that we've seen based on the investment that we've made. We've been just thrilled and extremely happy with the results that we've seen for building the enrollment pipeline for our MPH and Urban Health and ultimately building, our enrollment as well. So that'll do it for my piece today. So again, thank you for joining us. And I know we'll have a chance for a Q&A after this, but I just wanted to mention that if any of you had specific questions for me or how we're marketing or how we're working with retargeting here at Northeastern, specifically how it relates to our MPH and Urban Health, my contact information here is available, so please feel free to reach out. And now I'm going to hand it back off over to Owen to take us home.
I appreciate that, Chris. You as well, Dee. I thought they were both excellent. 1 second. I just want to go back one slide. Trace, there we go. So I'm just going to touch on, both Dee and Chris touched on these, but a lot of what they do revolved around once somebody clicked on the ad, it went to their landing page, which resides on their server, and obviously they're recording all the analytics off of their own server. But prior to reaching that point, to me at least, the keys to the whole program is you're reaching an incredibly targeted audience. I can't imagine there is a more pure audience of prospective students interested in studying at a school of public health than what we offer. And that's very much likely it allows what Chris and Dee then subsequently do be as successful as it is. It's really, as they both touched on, it's an awareness program because you have to assume not every prospective student is aware of your institution and your programs, but via this program, you can affordably raise your institutions and your programs' level of awareness with this audience. And I can return to this later, but I just have here at different spending levels the number of banner ads that you receive on a monthly basis. But whatever that number is, it's reasonably affordable and certainly relative to other options. And then the final point just being it's relevant because both Chris and Dee touched on the ad creative. I have found pretty much every school has a reasonably good click-through rate. And regardless of whether it's copy heavy or image heavy, they all work reasonably well. Some may work better than others, but they all work reasonably well. And I feel the reason is because you're reaching, the ads are only reaching prospective students interested in a school of public health, and the ads all center around public health. So there's likely to be a pretty decent click-through rate regardless. And then I just try to make it in partnership with ASPPH as turnkey as possible. It's simply to get started, all we need is, or all I need is the URL that you want to use for your landing page. It's your responsibility to create that landing page, the budget, and the ad creative. And pretty much away we go. And I handle pretty much everything on behalf of ASPPH. I also generate reports at the back end so you can understand what's happening. I'm also able to share with you how your ads are performing relative to other schools in the program. And as I've done with both Chris and Dee, just kind of talk through how might we improve our institution's performance. So with that, Dee, would you like to open up to Q&A? I mean, Tracy, would you like to open it up to Q&A?
Absolutely. Okay. Great. So thank you again to Dee and Chris and Owen for presenting. I think this was really interesting. And as a reminder, if you want to submit a question, there is a question box at the bottom of the tool down the side. So feel free to ask away. All right, we've already gotten some questions, so we'll go ahead and answer those now. The first one is for Dee. Did you have a goal for the number of leads you were collecting, and or let's see, asked another way, how did you, when you approached your leaders for support for this question, or for the money to do this, what did you predict your outcomes to be?
That's a good question. We didn't go into it really having a set figure or number of leads that we were looking for. We discussed it with our Assistant Dean for Finance as to what she was willing to put forward for a budget, and we went with it that way. After we've, been through an entire cycle, or possibly, when we hit a year mark, we'll review, what type of feedback or response we've gotten, compare applications with the contacts we've generated, and determine from there whether we want to increase that budget, keep it where it is, or what, as to how the effectiveness is. I think we're going to measure pretty effectively, especially compared to other activities that we've done in the past. So I think we're going to go forward pretty well.
Great. Chris, when you were starting out on this, were you hoping for a certain increase in the leads or the number of applications, a certain type of student? What were you looking for?
It was probably a combination of all of those things. We also didn't go into it thinking we wanted to generate X number of leads or Y applications. There was obviously a bit of a trial and error for us. We made the commitment to invest a certain dollar amount to test this over a certain number of months to see what happened as far as the lead volume goes. And we obviously were happy enough with it at that point to move forward with it, as we're now in our second year working with ECHO Interactive. And as far as quality of student goes, it's obviously a bit of a guessing game with that too, because you're casting your net to a pretty wide audience, so you're not sure what you're going to see as far as application quality goes. But I will say of the applications we did generate from our retargeting campaign, which was 12, I believe we ended up actually accepting 9 of those students. So obviously pretty quality application from as far as the student standpoint goes, if we were able to accept that high number of applicants.
Awesome. Okay. Do you can start first, and then Chris and Owen if you want to jump in, but do you feel that these new leads are people that wouldn't have connected with you, or just coming from a different direction because if they're already visiting ASPPH and SOFAS, they could have reached you anyway, potentially?
It's hard to say, really, at this point. I don't think we've done really a good in-depth analysis of the contacts that we've gotten. We believe that they are largely a new audience that may not have visited us otherwise, simply by virtue of the fact that they're looking to download the fact sheet. But we really don't know for sure. Our gut feeling is that they are a largely new audience, certainly not an entirely new audience, but majority.
Yeah, I would second those thoughts too. We do have a way sort of to track that where we can see of the visitors to our landing pages, how many had already visited Northeastern entity, whether it be one of our other websites or whether other landing pages. And I would say roughly 95% or so of the traffic that we're seeing coming to our landing pages from these retargeting campaigns have been new, unique viewers to our landing pages. So certainly I think we expected to see some, folks who may already be familiar with Northeastern with our MPH program, but by and large, the large majority of students that we've seen as far as interest we've generated have been from a new audience that may not have heard of us.
Okay, thank you. Owen, can you talk about if the ads, where they're appearing, if they're on the SOFAS and ASPPH website or other places?
No, the ads appear everywhere but there. So we utilize SOFAS and ASPPH to build the audience who's going to receive the ads, but the ads are actually running on the site that the prospects subsequently choose to visit over the coming days, weeks, and months. So if they've reached the SOFAS website, essentially due to the code, they're in our audience. And then if they subsequently visit a newspaper website, a magazine, a social media, you name it, within the boundaries of good taste, there's a good opportunity for me to serve one of the participating schools' ads. Literally, in nanoseconds, and the time it takes for that page to load on your monitor, whether that's your your mobile device or laptop or desktop or tablet. Literally in the time, whatever page you're about to see is loading on your screen, communication is taking place between servers, and lo and behold, our ad appears. And the key, as I mentioned earlier, is that ad only appears to people within our audience. So there's virtually no waste. It's not a guarantee that they're going to click on the ad and subsequently visit your landing page, but if nothing else, it's achieving or raising awareness, and then hopefully they're clicking on the ad and then going to your landing page.
Great. And just to follow up on that and answer another question, this does not replace what's currently on the ASPPH website. It's an addition to what you're already doing. Okay, the next question, Chris, do you want to take this, and then Dee, if you want to follow up, but it says this might be out of the scope of the conversation, but what kind of staff do you have or recommend having to manage the leads and to follow up? I'm concerned that our marketing efforts will be a waste without the appropriate staffing to shepherd the students through the process.
Yeah, that's a great question, and one I was assuming was coming today. We do have one full-time admissions staff member who is solely responsible for what we call like our health sciences portfolio. So they're working on our MPH program in addition to a few other graduate level programs. So they are the person who really is tasked with the lead nurturing piece. As a marketer, I'm working on obviously bringing the leads in. I'm working on building out those lead nurturing email streams and the automation of it. But we do have a full-time staff member in the admission side who is dedicated to directly working with those prospective students via email and via phone outreach. And we do also partner very, very closely with our academic team, so both our faculty and our program managers to both assist on those nurturing pieces. So if a student was to come to our admission staff and say, I had a specific question for the faculty member, we do have that handoff there where we collaborate on those efforts. And then we also do work very closely on nurturing those students in the application process and walking them through that application process hand in hand with our program managers and with our academic team. But the short answer is we do have one full-time staff member at this point who is responsible for that nurturing and that outreach from an admissions standpoint.
Similar to Chris, we have three folks in our admissions team, and there's one in particular who receives the leads and then follows up and adds them to his funnel in terms of responding and sending out additional materials. I would not say that he sees this as an onerous task. I think it's definitely manageable for him.
Great. Dee, also, can you talk about the Crazy Egg program and whether it's included with Echo Marketing or separate?
Yes, Crazy Egg is not included with the marketing. It's actually a program I had learned about on a different webinar a couple of years ago. It's similar to Google Analytics, but much more visual. We like using it because it feels a lot faster than Google Analytics. You can kind of look at it quickly and get a really good picture as to what's working and not working on your page. They use heat mapping. They also use like scatter patterns on the page to see where people are individually clicking, and you can even get some individual data as to those clicks, as to what countries they're from, whether they're new or returning, what browsers they're using, and so forth. So it provides a lot of robust information, and it really works for us. So I do recommend that as a tool, and it's relatively affordable.
Great, thank you. Oh, and how do you distribute the ads? So, for example, if 20 schools are using the remarketing based off the ASPPH service website, how are the ads served out? For example, how is it determined which schools add a given prospect to use?
So It's a good question, and it's the simple answer is it's more or less done on a rotational basis. But the caveat to that is not all schools are investing or buying the same volume of ads. So if one school, because the monthly investment by school ranges from a couple $100 per month to a couple of $1,000 per month. So the school spending a couple $1,000 is going to be in the ad rotation a lot more frequently than the school at a couple of $100. But by the end of the month, everybody has run the volume of ads essentially which they set out to acquire.
Great. Similarly, I think this is probably also for you, Owen. Can you explain how this process might work if you don't just want more applications but very targeted leads, i.e. diversity, international, etc.?
I have geographic targeting capabilities, but beyond that, which could address a couple of those areas, because our audience of visitors is international. You know, the majority of them are from the U.S., but there's an international component. So it would be possible to target international prospects exclusively. I believe Chris and Dee, I think you both target U.S. only, but I could be wrong. I'm pulling that off the top of my head. But we could possibly target that way. Was there another component, Tracy, I failed to address?
No, just how you divide up the ads if you want to target a specific market.
Okay. You know, I don't have the ability to target by degree because we just haven't drilled down to that level within the SOFAS or ASPPH sites. But we could achieve some of that via geo-targeting.
Great. This question is asked for Dee, but I'm going to open it to either of you. Would you be willing to share the cost per lead that you're experiencing?
We haven't really measured the cost per lead just because we're wanting to complete the cycle. So I don't really have that yet, but I mean, I can say that it's very cost effective.
Yeah, I don't know if I won't be comfortable sharing it on the webinar, but if we had an individual user who wanted to talk more about kind of our investment level and what we're seeing for results, I'd be happy to do that as a direct follow-up after the webinar.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Okay, do either of you require login to download your fact sheet? And if so, what information do they provide that you feel justified asking for a login to access? Do you want to start with that, Chris?
Sure. It's not a login per se. We do require certain form fields that is, certain piece of information that a student needs to supply in order to download that fact sheet. For us, it's just name, email address, and we do now require a phone number. Just because we've seen and we've tested over the past couple of years that we realized that students that were able to actually connect with via phone have had much better conversion rates as far as turning from lead to application. I will say, your conversion rates will be higher if you don't include the phone number. It's just an email address because some people obviously are weary about getting a phone call, but we have very clear messaging on our landing page associated with that form that says, if you submit this button, you'll be downloading our program fact sheet PDF, and you'll be receiving follow-up from an admissions team member via phone and via email. I will say we don't call the folks right away. I know it's more of a for-profit model for some of these institutions to get the person on the phone within like 24 hours. That's not what we feel is the best practice for a nonprofit institution. We allow the student to engage with our emails and things like that, and then we have a lead scoring model that determines what we feel would be an appropriate time to make that phone call.
Yeah, and we, as of right now, we're just asking for name and email. We thought about phone or other information, and we wanted to just keep it a really low, simple thresholds for visitors to meet in order to get that fact sheet. So there's no login per se, but just providing that information.
I think you hit the nail on the head. The fewer pieces that you require, the better conversion rates you're going to see on your landing page. And it's really a strategic determination you have to make as a marketing team and admissions team to say, is it important for us to capture that phone number or capture additional information, like their location or something like that. But again, for us, we do now include the phone number.
Great. I'm just going to answer 2 clarifying questions. The banner ad space is not on SOFAS.org. We don't have banner ads there. And the program that Dee was talking about earlier is called Crazy Egg, EGG, right, Dee?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Going into next year, what improvements are you looking to make in terms of landing pages or ad design, copy, whatever that might be? Do you want to start, Chris?
Sure. It's a great question. There's a number of things. We're always optimizing, as I mentioned, throughout the year. We're flipping in new creative on our banner ads typically every 4 to 6 months. So our optimizations we'll be making moving into FY16 or FY17, excuse me, which starts tomorrow, is really just testing out new banner ads as we're always implementing new pieces. We will be testing out a new format, which will include another imagery test on there, and we do have new headlines and copy that we've written that we'll be introducing. And of course, we take into account, what type of headlines have we utilized over the past couple of years that have seen better click-through rates, and then we try to craft new copy that obviously best aligns with what we've seen from a success standpoint. And from a landing page piece, as I mentioned, we're always looking to enhance the visual aspects of it, so the interactive pieces like infographics, like videos, and any type of visual information we can include on our wet landing pages we typically see improves our conversion rate. So those are pieces we're constantly looking to recreate and continue to tweak and continue to re-record with our creative team here. So those are 2, I think, big ones for us.
And we are looking at building an entire campaign where a lot of our marketing will have kind of the same messaging throughout. We've been trying a bunch of different things, and we're kind of looking at settling on one thought pattern that's working well for us. So we'll unveil that later this year and see how it does for us, and probably have the landing page mirror that as well, and tweak based on what has done well with the analytics are showing our audience clicks on and responds to.
Excellent. Oh, and can you tell us what you believe a good click-through rate would be?
It varies by association. So up front, you shared the various associations I'm currently working with. It's not the click-through rate is not necessarily the same from association to association, but within ASPPH, our program, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.2, I believe, is about the average.
Great.
And I'm able to share with schools month in, month out how overall their program is doing, how their program's faring relative to other institutions in the program, as well as how each individual ad fares. So you could determine, gee, the creative for this size doesn't work as well as the creative for a different size. Or the creative, some schools run 2 sets of ads, as Dee is doing, and I'm able to share with you, this size within set A performing relative to same size set 2 or set B.
Great. All right, I think we've actually answered all the questions that have come in. So I just wanted to thank everybody again for joining us today, and thank you to our speakers, Owen Landon, Steve Bowling, and Chris Aldrich. As a reminder, this webinar will be recorded. It was recorded and will be made available on the ASPPH website in the archived webinar soon. And just as a heads up, feel free to contact us with any additional questions and also to register for our next webinar in the ASPPH Present series, Student Services Spotlight, Bridging the Engagement Between Students and Young Alumni, which will be held on Wednesday, July 27th at 1 p.m. Information about registration will be out soon. Okay, so thank you all again, and this webinar is now adjourned. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks,
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Bye.